Moin! Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mace. I'm coming to you from Canada, and today we're checking out what can Germany do to counter Trump's new 25% car tariffs. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of apprehension, a lot of economic anxiety, and a lot of feeling around the world that's being affected by Trump and his tariffs, his policies. Tariffs are not new. Listen, countries have had tariffs for many, many years. It's just the way that Trump is deploying them, which is having a effect, I think, on the global economic order, at least different than it's been prior decades, especially with long-standing agreements, long-standing partnerships and deals being thrown out, right? Just thrown out. He's just tearing up deals and saying screw you and America first. And that's certainly when things can get frustrating and annoying, is this American exceptionalism and arrogance, like they are the only relevant country in the world and everybody else depends on them, right? You'll see this rhetoric and talking points often like, well, Canada, you guys have been, sucking on our proverbial teat for a long time. Without us, you'll be screwed. Like, why are you getting mad about the tariffs? Like, yeah, it's American. And like, Canada's fine. Canada's going to be fine. Canada's going to be 100%. It's not a big deal. Germany's going to be fine. Europe and the EU is going to be fine. But I think we're all distancing. I think all those countries need to distance themselves to a degree from the Trump administration, not necessarily the USA, but the Trump administration. And maybe in 4 years, we'll see what happens if the Republicans get back in. Yeah, there could be some transitionary crap that's got to be dealt with, but we'll see what happens. This is going to be a wild ride these next 3.5 years. So let's go. What can Germany do to counter Trump's new tariffs?
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a 25% tariff on all car and light truck imports into the country, saying the move would spur growth in the American economy. The White House said the tariffs would raise $100 billion a year. Applying them could be tricky, however, with U.S. car makers sourcing many components internationally, especially from Canada and Mexico. The European Commission...
So the manufacturers in the States are sourcing products from outside of the United States. They have to pay the tariffs. The parts probably come in. They might even go back somewhere, get tariffed again, come back in, another
President Ursula von der Leyen has given her reaction to Trump's decision. In a statement on the platform X, she said the following, and I quote, "I deeply regret the U.S. decision to impose tariffs on EU automotive exports. Tariffs are taxes, bad for businesses, worse for consumers in the U.S. and the EU. The EU will continue to seek negotiated solutions while safeguarding its economic interests." And other world leaders have also been reacting to Donald Trump's move to introduce tariffs on imported cars, many expressing deep disappointment.
And this is a direct attack, to be clear, a direct attack. You know, this will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger.
And that's the thing, like, it will hurt. Certain industries are going to be affected greatly in these next months and years, depending on what happens with the tariffs and what happens with the way that the industries are being shaken up. Obviously, I'm lucky enough to work in an industry, like, I think I'm insulated from this, but there's people that are probably worried about their jobs, right? Like, it it has real world effects. Obviously, you heard from Carney there. We'll have an election soon here in Canada, and
we must consider what will serve Japan's national interest. We're strongly requesting the US not to apply these 25% tariffs on Japan. There are different options. We have to think about which is the most effective and have all options in mind.
And here's a quick look at the top 5 countries that are the biggest suppliers of auto products to the US market. And so that means these are the nations that will be most affected by Trump's car tariffs. All of them are close US allies. Mexico leads the pack, followed by Japan, South Korea, Canada, and finally Germany. And here you can see how much their exports to the US are worth in billions of dollars. Other countries are grouped together here in...
Wow, Germany is exporting a lot of car imports, 25.5 billion, almost as much as Canada. It's pretty impressive.
light blue. The data we're showing you is from 2024. Let's get more now from Lars Halter from our business department. Lars, you saw that graphic put up over there. Germany is on the list of those countries that could be facing an impact from these tariffs. What kind of an impact are we looking at?
So think about it, like a 25% tariff on 25 billion. That's 25% is a huge number, and I'm still kind of unclear on how exactly the US importers, how they navigate that. Is Trump's goal, I mean, I assume his goal is to spur manufacturing growth and companies coming back. Companies are going to come back. It's going to be great. We're going to have a tremendous economy. If not, this will be the greatest economy in the history of the world. And oh, by the way, I'm the healthiest person in the history of humankind. The history of humankind. Can you believe that? It's tremendous. It's tremendous. But back to the economy. We're going to make America great again. Economically, militarily. Nobody's going to be taking advantage of us. It's just, yeah.
Well, Birish, it would be devastating. You can say that for sure. And
Devastating.
We just saw we're talking about billions of dollars here in value that German car makers export there. And that's going to be a lot more difficult. And now what makes this even worse for German car makers is the timing, really. This comes at a really, really bad time. China used to be, for the last couple of years, Germany's biggest export market. Now that fell apart. And now the US has become that biggest market. But we're already looking, with China dropping off, at profits down at these companies. 30%.
Yeah, China's a massive market. Huge market. The biggest market in the world.
35% for all the big German car makers. So they're already talking about cutting jobs, closing plants. So they are, you can really say, in crisis right now. And now the next big market is also maybe not falling off entirely, but it's going to make it a lot harder for them to sell anything at these prices.
What about US car companies, given that Donald Trump is saying that these tariffs are supposed to help the US auto industry? Will it?
It won't, and that is the big irony here, because, of course, even the American car makers, GM, Ford, or so, Chrysler, which is now part of Stellantis, they are dependent on suppliers from other countries as well.
Yeah,
for their
exactly.
Cars, and they are even building cars themselves in other countries. For example, GM is building some of its trucks in Mexico. Ford has 2 plants there, but they also just rely on parts made in Canada and Mexico by their own companies, but also by, of course, other suppliers. And an interesting number for you here is 60% of what is in an American-made car is actually sourced from abroad. So this is 60% of that car that will also face these 25% taxes. So even if you're buying a GM now in America as a customer there, you're paying an extra 25%.
So I know we're talking about the auto industry here, but then surely these tariffs, because they'll be applicable globally, will also have some sort of an impact on the global economy, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this questions the entire concept of a global free trade that we've enjoyed now for decades. Now, it wasn't always running smoothly, of course. Globalization has its ups and downs, of course, but this is really destroying the economic world.
Certainly, like, I would need to look into it more, and I'm definitely a layman when it comes to geopolitical, like, globalization. A lot of people hear that word. They just hear the word globalization and their eyes are going to turn red and their heads are going to explode and steam's going to be coming out of the airs. The World Economic Forum, and they're going to make us live in boxes and we're going to not own anything. And like, some people, they see the word globalization and they have like a aneurysm. and they get real upset real quick. But yeah, global free trade seems like a no-brainer. It seems like it benefits everybody to a degree. Like, I don't know. People have to negotiate for what's best for them, of course, but there has to be a certain level of fairness to it. So it's like
world order. It's escalating a trade war that Trump started by first raising some tariffs on steel and aluminium, but then we've seen counter tariffs from other allies.
I got roasted for my pronunciation of aluminium. Yeah, we pronounce it like aluminum here. That's how we do it. Is what it is.
Or former allies, then counter tariffs again. So this is just escalating a step by step, and it doesn't even stick within certain businesses, and it is chaotic. The United States will for a long time not be seen as a trustworthy partner in trade. We've just seen this overnight now, with Trump actually already talking about even higher tariffs on cars now for the EU and
even
Canada
higher
if they do anything, say counter tariffs, to hit back against the United States, whereas he's offering China a discount.
No, they can't do anything in retaliation to an idiotic trade war unprovoked. No.
Maybe if they would be willing to sell him TikTok. So he is he's just bringing things together here that don't belong together, and that makes the US highly unreliable as a trading partner.
We'll leave it there for the moment. Lars Halter, thanks so much for coming in. For more on this, I'm now joined by the political correspondent, Matthew Moore. Matthew, have there been any reactions from the government and from automakers to Trump's tariff announcement?
We're still waiting for a reaction from Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the likely next Chancellor, Friedrich Merz. But this morning we've got some reaction from the Economy Minister, Robert Habeck, who said that we will not take this lying down. He talked about the need for a clear European Union response. And actually, that's interesting because during the recent election campaign, we spoke to Friedrich Merz, the head of the Conservative Party, who's likely to be the next leader of the German government, about this issue, and he talked about the need really for a European response. So I think we will hear lots of that throughout the day. But again, none of this a real surprise. We knew that Donald Trump was intent on imposing tariffs. I think that the magnitude, though, 25%, that is quite sobering, especially for German car industry leaders too, who have also issued concern there this morning, saying that this places a significant burden on German car companies and also US companies too.
How could these 25% tariffs impact Germany?
The car industry is so important. It is really the lifeblood of the German economy. I mean, Germany imports, in the last couple of years, it's imported more than 400,000 cars to the US each year. It accounts for 13% of those of German car exports. So big market, really important. You've got to remember the German employment market here in Germany, 800,000 jobs are directly supported through the car industry. And then that number grows when you take on into account
800,000 jobs. That's a lot of employment.
Count the jobs in the peripheral industries attached to the car industry. Look, this is a bad time. This comes at a very bad time for the car industry, which has really been losing market share to China. And it also comes at a really bad time for the German economy, which has been in recession for a couple of years. So it's a big blow.
You were talking earlier about a European response. So what countermeasures are being discussed in Brussels and Berlin?
Well, what's interesting about this is that we've been here before. In Trump's first presidency, we had Trump imposing tariffs back then on steel and aluminium. But we didn't get it. He threatened to impose tariffs on cars. That never happened. But back then, we saw that the European Union retaliated with countermeasures, tariffs on things like whiskey and Harley Davidsons. Back then, this standoff was resolved in a
Do people drive Harley Davidsons in Europe?
matter of weeks. And really what we're seeing now is that the European leaders have had plenty of time to get to plan for this. And this morning we've heard a number of political leaders and industry leaders saying they want to see a swift and well-orchestrated response from the European Union. But really important that they do not avoid a tariff spiral or an unnecessary escalation. So a lot to...
Yeah, they have to play this balancing act, and with a child who potentially will throw a devastating temper tantrum. But yeah, I guess there is like the biker gangs everywhere, right? You guys seen Sons of Anarchy? Harley Davidsons. Actually, like I'm not really a big fan of obnoxiously loud motorcycles. So
To think about in terms of the next steps.
Did have a political correspondent, Matthew Moore, there. Thanks so much.
it's a crazy, crazy world. All right. Thanks for hanging out for a few minutes. By the way, I'm also a rapper and producer of music. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, all of that good stuff. Just search up Macy. That's all you need to do. MAC3Y. MAC3Y. That be me. Yeah, damn. I guess we don't really know what the end game here is or what things are going to look like in a few months' time, and that speaks to that unreliability that they were speaking about, and the uncertainty and just the U.S. not being trustworthy in terms of negotiations or as a trade partner. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. All right.